All right, from an agenda perspective, I just wanted to let you know there are 4 key items that we're going to talk today. First is the rate management strategies that fit with your property. So overall, obviously every property is unique. Every property is in a specific market tier. And as such, different rate strategies, different financial models will apply to every property. And so our goal tonight is just to give you a somewhat overview, sort of a 30,000-foot view, if you will, of what the various options that exist and how BookingCenter can assist in plugging in and figuring out what the best one is for you. The other key thing I just wanted to mention was that if there are any questions post-meeting that aren't addressed, I am available later this week, early next, or at a time at your convenience, either via email. We can certainly set up a conference call as well to go over something in a little more detail if needed. All right. The second key point is we actually have released a new managed rates feature within the MyPMS product over the last 4 weeks, and we're going to talk about how you can change multiple single and daily rates in a much more efficient manner. We're going to also touch on yield management, how you can automate rate increases and decrease based on occupancy levels as well as date or time. And then we're also going to talk about the Booking.com RateIntelligence and Rate Manager integration, which is intrinsically tied to yield management as well. All right, and just to talk, the slide here is more just based on some of the key channels that you may want to look at and how rate management will apply as a whole. So obviously, BookingCenter is a one-stop shop as far as your availabilities calendar is concerned, but you can also push rates and various rate plans and rate updates to all the key channels. You know, obviously there's the Booking.com, the Expedias, the GDS and IDS, TripAdvisor, Channel Connects, etc. Okay. All right. All right, so first what I wanted to do is talk about the updating rates on a given day. So really wanted to dive into the specifics regarding one of the key updates. A lot of properties at this stage are actually looking for, you know, they want to be able to, want to have the ability to go in on a specific day and update rates. So when you log into BookingCenter and you go to the setup area, it defaults to your rate grid. So for a lot of our properties, you'll see all your different rate plans that are in fact listed in your calendar view. And you now have the ability to actually update and change a rate just by clicking on the grid. Now this would only apply to parent rates and not child rates. So for example, if you wanted to update the suite rate this coming Saturday, you simply just need to click on the date and update the rate accordingly. So say you wanted to change that rate from $200 to $300, you just click on it, click the update rate, you get the confirmation that it was saved, and you see it updates here accordingly. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do define what the rate type is. So all parent rates are hyperlinked and can be changed accordingly, and your child rates are tied directly to your parent, so those rates in turn won't be, you're not able to update. Okay. So again, the key thing here is that you can update rates now on a specific date just by going to the rate grid, clicking on the specific date and rate plan you want. And when you update that respective rate, that rate is immediately saved within the BookingCenter database. And if that rate plan is tied to any third-party channel, whether it be the GDS, the OTA, or any of the channel connects that I mentioned earlier, that rate update will obviously be sent accordingly. Okay. The second key update that we made to our rates is what we define as multi-rate updates. All right, and what multi-rate updates now allow you to do is you can either increase or decrease by a set percentage or a flat rate over multiple rates. So the way we used to work was, you know, you go into our system, it would default to a weekly basis, and it would just show the respective rates and how your updates there. Now that, obviously, that feature still exists within the system, but you now have the ability to update multiple rate plans at the same time. So for example, if you were doing a promotion where all of your rates across the board, again, probably a very unlikely scenario, but just to give you an idea of what that scenario was like, you could go in and say all of my rates I'm going to set as $200 a night. And so you simply would go in, you would choose the various rate plans that you wanted, you click the display rate button, and what this will show you here is you get a rate summary. It'll give you the start date and the end date, the rate plans that were updated, and now it will give you a choice of specifically what of the three options that you wanted to, or how you wanted to update those respective rates over that set time period. At the very bottom, you can do it by a preset dollar amount. So the example I just gave where it was $200 for all those rate plans for the next week. You could also do a per dollar increase or decrease. So in that case, what it does, it will take the actual rate that you set up within your rate grid, and say you're going to do a $5 increase. That will bump up your 4 rate plans that are listed here $5 over the next week. So instead of having to go into each individual rate plan, you have the ability to just go in and do it on a dollar amount. There also is the percent, so you can go in as well and just choose, I'm going to increase my rates 10% over that respective time period. Okay. So this, again, just gives you the ability to easily go in, update rates on over a given time period for multiple rate plans at the same time. Okay. All right, so just in summary, the rate grid, you can update on a single day just by clicking on a respective from the calendar view, or under manage rates, again, multi-rate updates. So you can choose multiple ones and say you wanted to do it for the month of December. Again, it gives you the summary from the start date to the end date, what the rate plans, and then whether it was a percent increase or decrease. If it's a positive number, you just need to put in 10. If you wanted to decrease those rates by 10%, you just put in the minus sign, and the same applies to the dollar increase or decrease as well. And anytime you make those changes, you just click the next, it saves, and you can see that reflected back in your rate grid. Okay. All right, so those are these are 2 key things I just wanted to talk about regarding the key rate updates within the BookingCenter manage rates and rate grid screen. And next I just wanted to move on to yield management. So for the first part of the discussion, it's more your ability to go in, analyze whatever key data and trends you're looking for, and then essentially manually updating your rates accordingly. The second part of the discussion this evening is more centered around the automated updates that are made within BookingCenter. And that intrinsically is more tied to yield management. So within the software, within the BookingCenter paradigm, there are actually 3 types of yield management approaches. The first one is our internal yield management module. And what that does is allows for yield rules to be applied to select channels. So for example, your front desk, your website or booking engine, OTAs, GDS, and allows you to control price changes by both time and or occupancy. Okay? So we're going to touch on that just in about 2 minutes. The second one is we have a full integration with the Booking.com product called Rate Manager. And what that allows, basically, your PMS data, so occupancy levels, availability, rates that come directly from BookingCenter, we push that to the Rate Manager product. Booking.com's big data analysis, if you will, an analysis of supply trends within your market, your competitors, etc. They analyze that data and they actually push rates back to BookingCenter. So essentially, Booking.com's Rate Manager product literally becomes your revenue management, your yield management tool. And then lastly, from yield management, we do some integration with third-party revenue management services that utilize our API services, such as a company called iRates. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the internal yield management within BookingCenter and how exactly that works. So it is very simple, very turnkey. So once the actual module is activated, you'll see at the very top here, we have a yield management and a yield grid. The yield management, once it's activated within BookingCenter, we can essentially help and work to set your specific yield goals. All right, so the yield management module lets you choose the best practices to charge based on your situations. So what a lot of properties do is they initially create what we define as a yield profile using a combination of occupancy and date range or one or the other. So a typical example is one that I have right here right now, where it's based on both occupancy and time, and if the occupancy is above a threshold of 65%, less than 7 days out or less than a week, rates will be bumped up 20%. And then we have sort of the reverse of that, if you will. If it's below 30% a week out, those rates can be decreased by 20%. Okay? You always have the ability to control both, and there's different options here. You can do occupancy only, you can do time only, you can do occupancy and time, and then occupancy or time. All right? So once you define that, you can say the above and below, and you can set those to be whatever you want. Once those are set, you can actually view your rules under what we define as the yield grid. Okay? And you can enable the yield management module within BookingCenter to apply to specific channels or specific agents within the software as well. So if you wanted the yield management to work just with your front desk, you could do that. If you wanted it to be just with your website, you could do that. Or if you wanted this to apply to all of your OTA channels, you could do that as well. So you really have the ability to pick and choose what specific agents are set up accordingly. Okay, so for example, like typically what you would do is we go to the agent relationships, just to give you a little background on this one. So the agent BC, which are reservations from your website, you can see here that you can turn on or off the yield management specifically at the channel and at the room type level. Where if you look here at the front desk, and I know there's a litany of these here, but you can see here, at least with this column, certain room types at certain rate plans are yielded, if you will, while certain ones are not. So it's really up to your preference of how you want to roll that out. All right, so basically in summary here, you define within the internal yield management what your specific yield goals are. And again, it can be set by both occupancy and time. You can do a combination of both as well. I wouldn't recommend, but in some cases you could even do what we define as overlapping yield management as well. And then like you said, you can have different strategies as far as what channel you apply those to as well. With most cases, as far as your OTAs are concerned, with both Booking.com and Expedia, whatever you apply to one, I certainly would recommend applying it to the other with those two, just because of the rate parity rules that apply. But outside of that, you can certainly be creative with yield management for your various channels and agents. Okay. All right. Again, I know we had some people join after the fact. If we could, we're definitely going to take questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have any, and just so you don't forget, you can all please feel free to add those directly in our GoToMeeting chat at the very bottom. Okay. The other key automated, so the key thing I just wanted to mention here was when we talked about yield management as it pertains to internally within the BookingCenter product, the one benefit you have here is that you can easily activate or deactivate your yield management. So put if it wasn't working, or if a particular strategy wasn't working and you wanted to just remove it, simply you literally just need to go into whatever the channel that you were looking at, and just by, like if we talked about your website, if you wanted to turn off yield management, for your website, you would just simply click Yield Management No, and that would immediately update your booking engine in this particular sense, because as the agent we're on, those yielded rates would no longer show. So you completely, even though this is an automated approach, you still have the ability to control and go in and update as you see fit. The segue to that, as far as the Booking.com Rate Manager and RateIntelligence product is concerned, is that this is a completely automated system. And the Booking.com Rate Manager is only for Booking.com customers. So basically what we're going to talk about now is that your property must have an active account with Booking.com if you wanted to utilize these particular tools. Okay? So the key thing to keep in mind as far as the Rate Manager is concerned is it's an interface that has two key components. Number one is BookingCenter keeps the Rate Manager product up to date with all reservations, all modified rates for all room types that are maintained within BookingCenter. So this essentially means that all booking activity goes from BookingCenter to the Rate Manager product. And then in turn, the Rate Manager product then calculates rate strategies based on their comparative rates from their market analysis and the goals that you So typically you'll be meeting with a Booking.com rep. And so these rates based on that data and that algorithm then therefore get posted back into BookingCenter and will overwrite the rates that were set within the rate grid. So thus these new rates go out to the channels that you've allocated on what was posted from BookingCenter from the Rate Manager product. Okay, so let me give you a quick example of that. All right, so what you're going to see here is that under the reports area, if you do have an active account in this with Booking.com and this live, it's called RateIntelligence by Booking.com. Okay, and so what it's going to do, it's going to briefly load here, and then I can do just a quick pop out of the full screen here, and it's going to load. But the key takeaway from the Rate Manager product is that the Rate Manager product will decide the rate values that BookingCenter stores. So it's a compelling revenue management argument from the Booking.com network, which obviously has excellent rate comps for most markets. But like all automated revenue management approaches, it may take some time tinkering or working with the team to get the results and occupancy situations that you want. Okay. But the key thing here is that, and I know it might be a stretch for a lot of properties, is that essentially your rates are being controlled by the booking suite as a whole. Okay, but you can take a look here. You know, it shows you in the bottom just some highlights. So it's showing here from April 23rd, a specific room type decreased from 160 to 140, and just some key trends here. And you can look at your business, your revenue. So some key trend lines, over the next few days, showing what your business is, what your occupancy levels are, what your price is, etc. You know, if you want a more detailed view, you can go to your calendar, and you get a little more breakdown here. So it just shows you, you know, what your occupancy levels are, shows you your competitors' pricing as well. Okay. All right, so essentially just to close up the yield management in summary is that there's really three options. I'll lead off by the last one we just talked about. Obviously, there's the Booking.com RateIntelligence, whereby Booking.com will actually control and update your rates. So basically, it pushes directly from the Rate Manager product into the BookingCenter system, and then in turn, those rates will be pushed to, you know, GDS, Expedia, website, etc. We also deal with some third-party revenue management solutions that specialize just in the revenue management side, and they can push those rates directly to the BookingCenter product. And then obviously we have internally the yield management component that we talked about here. All right. I will open up the floor now. Did anyone have any specific questions? I know we covered a lot in a relatively short period of time, but I just wanted to, thank you for attending our session this evening regarding how rates are updated within the BookingCenter product, either on a per-day basis or on our multi-rate updates, and yield management side as well, as far as the internal yield management, and then the Booking.com RateIntelligence approach. And like I mentioned earlier when I started the presentation off, if you would like to discuss in more detail what the right strategy is for your property internally, both my email address and my phone number are posted here, and we can always set something up at a later date.